What's up, sports fans, and welcome back to Slice of Sports with your man, Steve Schaefer. Today, we are going to talk about the 2021 Hall of Fame class for Major League Baseball. But before we get into that, like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications so we can get this conversation going. Okay, the 2021 class of Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame is zero. Nobody. That's right. Nobody got elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame this year, 2021. So Derek Jeter, who got elected last year but couldn't have the whole ceremony because of all the COVID stuff, will go in again by himself. The three closest candidates this year were Curt Schilling, who got 70% of the vote, Roger Clemens, who got 61% of the vote, and Barry Bonds, who got 60.7% of the vote. Now, everybody knows the story with Clemens and Bonds, all the steroid issues, or at least the accusations that came out in the Mitchell Report way back when. We all know what's going on with them. The interesting one is Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling, he of the very vocal opinions off the baseball field. Again, off the baseball field, having nothing to do with the sport in and of itself. He got, like I said, 70% of the vote. He was 1.6% higher than he was last year, a total of 16 votes short of being selected to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. His career is pretty good. 216 wins, 146 losses, a 3.46 ERA, which is honestly a little bit high for a Hall of Fame pitcher. He had 3,116 strikeouts over his career, six-time All-Star, did not win any Cy Youngs, but Curt Schilling's real claim to fame is his postseason record. He was 11-2 with a 2.23 ERA, and even in the biggest stage, he was 4-1 in the World Series, winning the NLCS MVP in 1993 with the Phillies, and I believe he was co-MVP with Randy Johnson in the 2001 World Series, which broke my heart as a diehard Yankees fan. So the big thing, again, Schilling not being elected. Not only did he not get elected, he went on social media and complained about not being elected. This year was his 9th year on the ballot. He has one more year of eligibility left because you're only allowed 10 years. It used to be 15, but now it's 10 years on the ballot. And then you go to what's called the Veterans Committee. The Veterans Committee can basically pick from anybody in all of baseball at any point and select, I think, up to 3 members of the Veterans Committee, or 3 members of that ballot can go into the Hall of Fame. Doesn't matter when you retired, when you played, or what position in baseball you held. So Curt Schilling said he wants to be removed from next year's ballot. He does not want to be on the ballot next year because the only people's opinions who matter are the people on the Veterans Committee. Now look, if I personally had a vote for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, which I don't, if I did, I probably would vote Curt Schilling into the Hall of Fame, even though he was a pain in my rear end with the Boston Red Sox. And again, he helped destroy the Yankees in the 2001 World Series, which broke a lot of hearts, especially here in New York. That being said, his record on the field is unquestioned. It's not to take into account anything that he has said or done off the field. And I'm not talking about steroids because the steroid stuff does come back on the field. Barry Bonds can hit more home runs. He can hit the ball further. Roger Clemens can throw the ball harder, recover faster if he takes steroids. That, to me, is something that's done off the field but affects on the field. The stuff that Curt Schilling says, which I may or may not disagree with, has nothing to do with what goes on the field. Also, with Curt Schilling not wanting to be on the ballot next year, comes off as a whiner. I'm sorry, he just does. You didn't get elected. Maybe it's because of what you said. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's because of your career numbers. You know what? Your career numbers are really good, but they're not no doubt Hall of Fame career numbers. So Curt Schilling, you need to shut your mouth. If you get in the ballot, if you get into the Hall of Fame next year, fantastic. If you get in with the Veterans Committee, fantastic. But you know what? Shut your trap. I don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. You come off as a whiny little person who does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame when you start complaining about not getting into the Hall of Fame. So diving into some of the numbers with Clemens and Bonds, which I think we kind of all know, at least the general numbers. Clemens with 354 career wins, 11 All-Stars, 6-time 20-game winner, 7-time Cy Young Award winner. His postseason record was 12-8 with the 3.75 ERA. He won 2 World Series, both with the Yankees, by the way, in 99 and 2000. His ERA in the World Series was 2.37. He was fantastic. He pitched 24 years for a whole bunch of different teams. Roger Clemens was a great pitcher. But again, it's the steroids thing. If people don't like the steroids thing, they're not going to vote for you. He only went up another 0.6% from the previous years. And again, he is in the same boat as Schilling. This was his 9th year out of 10 years. He's got one more year left of eligibility, but you're not hearing anything from Roger Clemens. Chances are you probably won't hear anything from Roger Clemens. Next year's his last year. I'm going to say he's probably not going to make it into the Hall of Fame, at least not from the writers' vote. He may get in someday from the Veterans Committee. Who knows? Same thing with Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, we all know, the most career home runs, 762, played for 22 years, 7-time MVP, 14-time All-Star. The guy leads baseball history in home runs, walks, and intentional walks because he was that feared of a hitter in his heyday with the San Francisco Giants. Now, there's always the question of, would these guys, these steroids guys, would they have been Hall of Famers without the steroids? Now, obviously, we can't know that for sure, but Barry Bonds was a great player before he allegedly started doing steroids. Roger Clemens was a phenomenal pitcher before he allegedly started doing steroids. That's the big thing. Do you think the steroids made them greater, or they just kind of had no effect? Or do you think they were just okay players who had their run and then became greater again because of the steroids? Who knows? I think the writers have spoken, though. I think a lot of the fans don't really care a whole heck of a lot because, not for nothing, steroids in baseball is a big deal. You get busted with steroids, it's 60 games, it's a 30-year season. In football, somebody gets busted for steroids, everybody goes, when's he coming back? I don't care. He did steroids. When's he coming back? 4 games, 8 games? I don't care. When's he coming back? Baseball, it's a lot different. So baseball, we got that history going with Major League Baseball. So I understand why people are upset at Bonds and Clemens. I go back and forth. Again, if I had a vote, I probably would vote for Bonds and Clemens to both make the Hall of Fame. All of these guys, if you put up Hall of Fame numbers before you started doing steroids, or you were a Hall of Fame player before you started doing steroids, and then all of a sudden you became a world-class player, then okay, fine. I can have my disagreements with how you did it, but I still think you're a Hall of Fame player. I still will always hold the late, great Hank Aaron as the true home run king in baseball, even though Barry Bonds may have more home runs. To me, that doesn't matter. Barry Bonds wouldn't have hit as many home runs had he not done the steroids. That being said, he still probably would have been a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. The last little bit on this year's Hall of Fame class, there were 3 other guys who I thought deserved some notification or mention with maybe being Hall of Famers. We had Omar Vizquel, who played 24 years with a whole bunch of different teams, was a defensive whiz, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. He's not quite Ozzie Smith because nobody's going to be the Ozman, but he was really, really close. I think he deserves more consideration for the Hall of Fame, and I think after guys like Schilling, Bonds, and Clemens come off the ballot next year, whether they're elected or not, guys like Omar Vizquel will get more mention for being in the Hall of Fame. Another one was Scott Rowland, who was one of the best third basemen in Major League Baseball history. He trails only some of the greats like Mike Schmidt as with his numbers, especially offensively. So Scott Rowland will get more consideration. And another one who spent his whole career in Colorado was Todd Helton, a first baseman who played 17 years for the Colorado Rockies. A great player who, again, I don't think necessarily gets the kind of mention for being a Hall of Fame player. He had a batting average over 315 for his entire career. That's really difficult, especially over 17 years. I know there's the Colorado effect and the ball flies higher, but the guy wasn't a huge home run hitter. He was an average hitter. He was a great hitter. So, again, in the coming years, some of these guys are going to get more consideration as some of these steroid guys start coming off the ballot. Next year, we have 2 really huge names coming onto the ballot. David Ortiz, he of the Minnesota Twins and, of course, Boston Red Sox. And Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, will be up for his first time on the ballot next year. So that'll be very interesting to see how those guys are treated when it comes to the potential steroid stuff. David Ortiz was never officially caught, but he was supposedly one of the names in the initial report of 150 players or so that had tested positive for steroids without their names being known. So it'll be interesting to see how the voters go with a guy like David Ortiz. And again, with Alex Rodriguez, if you just look at A-Rod's numbers, he should be a Hall of Famer. If you take in the steroids, maybe he will be, maybe he won't be. So that's my slice of sports for today. Again, remember, like and share this video, turn on notifications, subscribe to my channel, and until next time, keep swinging for the fences, fans.